By the way, we sent a crew, Millie Weaver and crew, to the Red Pill Expo that Lord Monckton, Robert Kiyosaki, and others were at over the weekend, and some of the interviews have not been seen yet. They've got one with Robert Kiyosaki, who's very respected and good friends with Donald Trump. It's a warning to the president about some of the black ops he was involved in. And I can confirm some of these black ops from some other sources. It's pretty amazing stuff. In fact, I may even air that in the 4th hour for it's about 5 minutes long, a clip when Mike Cernovich is hosting. But there's just overwhelming amounts of news. You're not even getting live here on the air. Go to Infowars.com as a lot of that news breaks. And please spread those videos. Larry Klayman, again, demonized by the media, demonized by the establishment right wing because he's effective. He's the guy that helped get the impeachment going. He's the guy that got the NSA to have to stop its behavior and got a national law passed, which they've been caught breaking again. But because of that, now we have investigations. We're exposing it. Remember just 10 years ago, I was insane, none of this existed, and then it was exactly as we told you it was? Because it's all hidden in the Telecommunications Acts from 1962 and 1987 and 1996 as they put the infrastructure in. It's all hiding in plain view. Then we have the whistleblowers. And Larry Klayman has a whistleblower that I've talked to law enforcement. They've been on. They've seen it. And I've seen very small pieces of it. As a journalist, we're allowed to see this, but under precedent, but it's still dangerous. And all I'm saying is I don't think people realize the danger that Larry Klayman's gone through, or we gone through. I mean, we had all the guests on the week of Benghazi saying exactly what happened from NATO, from the Army, from the CIA. I mean, they had the Justice Department come to their houses. They got threatened with murder. Now, that's behind the scenes. I'm not going to tell you some of the stuff behind the scenes went on here because it's off record. But let me tell you, some of our guests are heroes. This isn't a game, people. I've gone through a lot just doing it. I'm not complaining. I just want you to know this proves how real all this is, that they do this. But we don't have to prove anything. It's all been admitted now, thanks to all the whistleblowers from AT&T and Larry Klayman and all the rest of it. So now, where does all this go, Larry Klayman?
Well, it goes, Alex. We're trying to wage a peaceful revolution, as you know. We're trying to use the courts. We're trying to use other means. We're trying to use people like yourself who get the word out. I have a radio show myself. It's called Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman on Radio America. You can find it on our website. Education's important, and it's not just the lawsuits, because this country's on its knees, and we need to rise up and bring it back. And yeah, it requires strong measures. We're not in favor of violence, but of course the left is, and they're trying to do that. And when you talk about violence, just yesterday, we found out that an FBI agent was indicted in Oregon for lying about killing one of the protesters when the Bundys went up there to protest this land grab.
You know, let's stay a little longer because I want to get into that, but it'll take some time. I remember when this all happened, I talked to some folks in the Army who were very upset because they were there, and I was told all of this, and I just couldn't even believe it, that they would just randomly kill this guy for no reason and lie about it. But now it's all been confirmed. And Lord Monckton first gave us that news last week. You're saying you have more intel on that. It's now subsequently happened.
Well, yeah, I've been trying to represent Cliven Bundy, okay, in the case in Nevada. I got a judge there, Gloria Navarro, who's trying to keep me out of that case. I'm at the Supreme Court on that issue very shortly because she doesn't want a Larry Klayman in there because I'll challenge her. But she's the hand-picked judge of former Senator Harry Reid, that very corrupt Las Vegas senator. And then Cliven, who's being tried probably in about a month and a half with his sons, he never harmed a hair on anybody's head, yet he was indicted. And he was indicted, Alex, I believe, because he used a politically incorrect phrase after that successful standoff where the government had to leave, where they were using excessive force. Cliven compared himself to the Negro in the Old South. Of course, Martin Luther King had used that word, and he just didn't know the right word. So Obama took offense. Loretta Lynch took offense, and she indicted Cliven and his sons.
And they said these are domestic terrorists. No, they had hundreds of their cows letting them die in a barn on land the family had grazing rights to since 1877. But then they lied to the public going, oh, they just stole public land. No, the public didn't understand common law or even federal law.
That's right. Now, fast forward, we've got Cliven Bundy, and you can see about that at clivenbundydefensefund.org. He needs your support. Cliven Bundy.
Well, stay there then. Let's come back and flesh this out because I don't even know if this is known, But it wasn't just Joe Biggs that got warned off. I then talked to folks that were actually there, and I couldn't really talk about it at the time because it wasn't off the record, but now some of it's leaking in the case. They had U.S. Army Special Operations there. Ladies and gentlemen, the war was lost. With the globalists, we've been sold out to a private planetary government. But Trump got into office, and we have a beachhead trying to pull us out of these unelected global agreements that literally transfer power out of the country. Meanwhile, in many Western states, upwards of 50 to 60% on average of the land is federal. Some states, it's 89%, like Nevada and other areas. And the feds are super aggressive now. I've gone to national parks, and the regular rangers are okay, but you get around the police, I mean, everybody knows I'm not anti-police, but when you see somebody crazed, aggressive, rude, I walk over, try to talk to people repeatedly at Big Ben, and they're rude and bow up to everybody. I mean, you know, when you've been in third world countries and you've seen authoritarian police, how they strut around, how they behave, they look like North Korean police. They have that same crazed look. You know your country's in trouble. But remember the TSA hiring ads a few years ago that said, we want imperious people. They want you to act imperial. Imperious means super arrogant. Larry Klayman, again, top constitutional lawyer, absolutely fighting the globalist at point-blank range, joins us. The left's been calling for major violence. This just broke. I told you this was coming. July 2nd is when Soros doubled the amount of money he's ever spent in the U.S. for civil unrest. Washington Times, Michael Moore urges followers to rise up over 4th of July, storming senators' offices. And, of course, they've been calling for violence. The Huffington Post and others have said, you know, too bad there's not more congressmen being shot. Meanwhile, they're saying we're going to cause violence against them. They're going to kick off the violence. They're going to say we're behind it. That is clear. Because they know Trump's trying to get control of the agencies right now. They want to have a violent overthrow before that hits. I think they're insane, just like in the campaign. I believe this is their Waterloo. I believe they miscalculated. We'll talk about all this with Larry Klayman in a moment. First off, MycoZX was a new product that we had last year. And it's a big old high-quality glass bottle filled to the brim with compounds, enzymes, and herbs that are known to knock out the fungus, the mold, the yeast, the candida. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a huge national crisis, the pesticides bioaccumulating in the gut. Huge problem. Then that pushes out the good bacteria, the bad bacteria take over. You take probiotics. It's legendary. Nobody denies that probiotics haven't changed the world. Really helped a lot of people. We have Biome Defense, a super high quality, very high end, 50 billion strains per pill. That's 30% off when you get it with MycoZX. Now, look, I can sell out of this, selling it at full price, but I want you to see how good it is and to see the results for yourself. And you can't lose because regardless, you're funding this operation, promoting liberty. These are war bonds. But everybody, myself included, I'll take probiotics a while, I'll take MycoZX, then I'll forget because I'm not a big, vitamin mineral guy. But this is beyond vitamin mineral. This is re-energizing your gut. This is solid fact. I've seen MSM make fun of us selling probiotics. I mean, that's one thing the liberals have got is that probiotics are really important. Bill Gates is obsessed with this. So Biome Defense, 30% off when you get it with MycoZX. Very, very costly compounds in this, sourced. It's just amazing quality. If you think probiotics are great and they've helped you, well, try our Biome Defense. But if you think that's powerful, get MycoZX because the Biome Defense doesn't deal with the yeast and the mold, the candida, but together, like a horse and carriage, they're amazing. InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. We've got free shipping through the month of July. I'm extending it. We've got a bunch of specials on X2, Super Male Vitality, and a bunch of other best-selling products that I'm going to run for a few weeks more. But a lot of those products are about to sell out. 30% off on our great nootropic Brain Force. And you can rest assured you're funding the very sword of truth, the tip of the spear. So thank you all for your support. Be sure and support our local affiliates and their local sponsors as well. Tell everybody you know at red lights and at grocery stores everywhere, hey, you're the modern Paul Revere's. Tune into the show right now on that local station. Or if there's not a local station in your area, well, spread the word about Infowars.com/show. That's changing the world. just little InfoWars is exponentially challenging the globalists to the point they're calling for our destruction, because there can't be any voices of truth challenging them, because what they're promoting is so ridiculously corrupt and fraudulent. The enemy should be easy to beat, but it's up to you, and you're the reason they're getting beat. But understand this, Trump was just a beachhead. I want to give Larry Klayman the floor for about 10 minutes here, and then we'll let him go and get to your calls and more guests and news. But walking through this, I agree, America's on its knees. We were on our deathbed. Now we're trying to get up. That's why they're panicked. Michael Moore, the globalist, no, stay there, like Lilliputians. And then go through what's happening with the Bundys and with the FBI agent being indicted for what he did. That shows Trump, the Justice Department, and others are moving forward. Obviously, there's local issues as well. And then what we can all do in this critical time, and what your message is to President Trump, Larry Klayman.
Well, my message is stand tough, like you, Alex, like me. Don't worry about people say. Don't worry if they come after you. It actually emboldens me, because we are against this very corrupt, evil establishment. The Democrats are one thing, but the Republicans are trying to stab Trump in the back as well. They want to run their establishment candidate. So we just have to be who we are. We have to push ahead. Now, going back to Bundy, Mr. Lincecum, who was a peaceful protester in Oregon, because the Bundy sons went out there to help another rancher, wound up getting shot dead. And now we find out an FBI agent lied about that. And that doesn't come as any surprise. And who was the FBI director at the time? James Comey. There you go. So all of this kind of comes together. Now, we have Attorney General Jeff Sessions. I believe he's a good man, Alex. I think you do too. But he's being beaten up right and left, okay? 2 meetings with the Russian ambassador he did while he was a senator. He's accused of perjury, everything else. Now there's a complaint filed by 34 Democrats and some Republicans with the Inspector General to investigate matters involving the firing of James Comey. Not a coincidence. The poor guy is under siege every single day. And I've been trying to get him to review the Bundy prosecution, because I didn't tell him how he should come out with it. But the prosecution in Nevada is falling apart. The 2 sons were acquitted. They virtually represented themselves in Oregon on the peaceful protest, although Mr. Lincecum was killed. Bundy's haven't harmed a hair on the head of anyone. And ask yourself the question, is that, let's say the government is right that Bundy owes money. I don't believe he is. You pointed out the land. They claim 95% of ownership of the land in Nevada. They constitutionally do not own that amount of land in Nevada.
That's key what you just said. I don't mean to interrupt. Federally, it's 89% on the books, but you're right. They're now grabbing another 6%. They're now taking everything.
Right. But here's the bottom line, is that I've asked Sessions to review this because the prosecution's falling apart. Yet Bundy has been in jail for 1.5 years. He was first put in solitary confinement by this Judge Navarro, handpicked by Harry Reid and Obama. He then was denied a speedy trial. He then was denied right of counsel, me. I'm at the Supreme Court asking the Supreme Court to order me to come into the case. Right now, Bob Barr is looking to possibly come into the case, my good friend that we impeached Clinton together with.
We need to get Bob Barr back on. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good man. And Cliven needs help. And he's dying on the vine out there. So I hope people will go to Cliven Bundy Defense Fund.org and contribute.
Because it's a precedent for everybody else. They didn't do anything violent. They should at least be out on bail, especially when their other big case fell apart. Clearly, they're trying to make an example of people, but why would they kill Lincecum when he gets out of the vehicle and is doing nothing? Why did they do that?
Because they think they're above the law. They can do whatever they want and then they'll lie about it.
But why do you shoot a guy with his hands up? I mean, I understand this goes on, but this is actually on video. I mean, this is actually coming out the way the Lincecum said it did.
Right, and where's Black Lives Matter on this one? Okay, this is what they claim has happened to African Americans, but nobody cares if it's a white guy, frankly. And this is the reality here, is that this country is upside down. Okay, we have to fight for it. We believe in equality for everybody. And Cliven Bundy, he doesn't owe money to the government. He has a reasonable basis to believe that he doesn't, the federal government. But does that give the government the right to bust into your house, to attack your sister, to tase your dog viciously, to kill your cattle and bury it in a mass grave, and to tase your sons? Does that give them the right to do that if you owe the government money, which he claims he does not? I mean, what kind of country do we live in? And then you get indicted by Obama, who made a joke. You can find that video on our website at ClivenBundyDefenseFund.org. He made Obama at the White House Correspondents' Dinner said, "This is what happens to you when you use the word Negro. Let me give a piece of advice to that rancher." And sure enough, That rancher was indicted a few years later. This is payback because Obama was offended that Cliven used the word Negro. And of course,
by the way, let's expand on that. The liberal media wants to ban words. So first they start with the word homosexual. Heterosexual, homosexual is just a scientific term. Now I've heard that some people get offended by the name Negro Modelo. Negro just means dark or black in Spanish. It has nothing to do with putting somebody down to use that word. We can play all day Martin Luther King talking about, you know, from the old Negro spiritual, let us sing Amazing Grace. We could play that video right now from YouTube. That was the term that was politically correct then. Then they say, oh, that sounds too much like the N-word, so let's use the word African American. Then folks say they don't like that. I'm just sick of it. I'm just sick of it. But exactly, why would Obama then make a joke about it, saying we'll kill you if you use that word, and then he uses it?
Well, he spent that figuratively. You know, what happened at that White House Correspondents' dinner is that Rand Paul, who at that point was supporting Cliven Bundy, had invited Cliven to that lunch, to that dinner, apparently. So Obama's trying to be funny on the stage, and he says, I see Senator Paul sitting there. That Nevada rancher isn't with him. And I guess this serves as a lesson for anybody that starts off his sentence, let me tell you about the Negro. And he repeats that twice. And I believe that's why he was indicted, because he offended Obama, and Loretta Lynch was Obama in a skirt. And 2 years later, they wind up indicting him.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'll say this about the Bundys. They're nice folks, but they are like from another planet. I mean, they're like from the 50s. They've been out there in the middle of the desert since the 1870s. And they're using the term that he grew up, that Martin Luther King used. And again, it's just...
What he was saying was complimentary to African Americans.
Sure, he was saying they've been enslaved. They've been domesticated. But it doesn't matter. No one talks about injecting black people with syphilis. That's okay. Just don't use the word Negro. It's just insane.
Yeah, no, it is. The whole thing's upside down. And here's the bottom line, is that we asked Attorney General Jeff Sessions to review this. I've been seeking a meeting with him. Poor guy's under siege. And I hope that the American people will rise up and ask Jeff Sessions to take a look at this neutrally, because this is a persecution. It's a political persecution. It's more than a prosecution.
Exactly. I agree. Let me ask you this. They've got Trump under siege. They've got Sessions under siege. They've got us under siege, trying to keep us on the defense. Don't we need to go on the offense like you're doing with lawsuits, the rest of it? What else does Trump do? I think you should come out and say, Michael Moore, instead of picking on Brzezinski and, you know, others who are just jokes, hey, Moore, you're calling for violence. You're calling to run into people's offices. If anything bad happens, it's on you. Stop calling for violence. That way we get ahead of them trying to foment a revolution.
Well, Alex, we're taking action there, too. I represent a young gay woman who was attacked at Berkeley when Milo of Breitbart News tried to speak there. And we've sued Berkeley. We've sued the president, Napolitano, the former Obama head of HHS. And we've sued others there, the police department that stood around and watched this woman get beaten up. We've got to start taking action here. We can't just sit here and complain. And what you do is extremely valuable. You're getting to the American people. I do the same thing with, you know, going on your show and having my own radio show. But yes, we need to try to use the legal system, because if we don't, these leftists are fomenting violence. And I'm afraid that you're going to wind up with the militias in the streets. You're going to have the people on the right, people on the left. We're going to be in another civil war, and it's going to be bloody, and it's going to be scary, and it's going to destroy this country. So we're using whatever means we can to try to avoid that. But the reality is we are on the brink of civil war, and very dangerous civil war, because the left knows no bounds. They're Bolsheviks. It's like 1917 in Russia. They don't care if they kill people. They don't care how many people they destroy in terms of the leftist media. And they lie, they cheat, they steal. They're just like communists. That's what they are. Ironically, Putin said recently, looking at these people that are trying to destroy Trump, he says, he has some sense of humor, I might add. He says, these people are a bunch of communists. So, you know, even he sees it. Now, he's a communist, so he knows one when he sees one. So
he was a communist, definitely.
Yeah, well, now he's just a dictator. But the reality is that he sees what's going on here, and he's looking at the United States destroy itself. And frankly, it's not a Russian thing. When was the last time the left complained of Russia? Okay, when was the last time they complained of Moscow? Moscow to the left is like Mecca is to the Muslims.
But not anymore, because it's been retaken, and that's why Hollywood and the left hates it. Look, I'm not going to defend Putin. Russia's a rough place. He's done a lot of Christian reforms, pays folks to have kids. You know, they're not teaching 5-year-olds, you know, how to have sex or whatever. They've done a lot of stuff that's made the left mad. I mean, I think
Well, you're right.
Putin.
He's
I think
so bad.
Putin.
He's
I think
so
Putin has gone after his opposition because a lot of it's been Western funded, leftist funded, Soros funded. But I mean, Putin really is super popular in Russia. A lot of outside polls show him at like 70%. I mean, do you really think he's a dictator?
Well, he's a dictator, sure he is. But the point here is not to. We don't care whether Putin is or is not. What we know is that there's nothing wrong in talking to Russia. There's nothing wrong in trying to reach another détente. Trump has tried to do that. The Democrats are whipping up hatred. And like I said, when was the last time the Democrats or the left had a problem with the Soviet Union or Russia? They have more kinship to the Soviet Union and Russia than they do to our own country. I mean, Bernie Sanders took his honeymoon there. You could have a movie, honeymoon in Moscow. I mean, this is a guy who worshiped the Soviet Union and
that's
Russia.
why they're upset, Larry, because it's not the Soviet Union anymore. And I've done my research. Putin's family was secretly Christian the whole time he was in the KGB. I think we're actually seeing a comeback of Russian Christianity. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying they don't meddle in our affairs. But from my research and yours back in the day, the communist Chinese and the EU bureaucrats, and they're the ones that are involved in our elections. They're the ones that are really trying to manipulate things. They're the ones allied with the left.
Well, that's right, Alex. There's no question about it. And in this world, we have to learn how to deal with people. We have to be strong, but you don't shut people out. You don't create a war when you don't have to have a war. And the United States, we're powerful. We need to build up our military. President Trump deserves a chance. He's our last chance. If you think that Obama was bad, if this president fails, the next one's going to be 100 times worse.
I totally agree. Larry Klayman, thank you so much. I'd love to get Bob Barr on. Thanks for reminding me about the former congressman who helped get the impeachment through with you and just so much more. Thank you so much, my friend.
You're welcome. God bless you. Happy July 4th.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely.
In ancient times, man roamed the earth in a constant state of hunting or being hunted. Introducing Caveman, where cutting-edge science meets ancient super nutrients. Secure your bottle right now at InfoWarsStore.com.